All right, welcome to the day two of our challenge, which is about the science behind a 500k offer. And this is not a normal offer, normal process in which you just come up with something random, come up with a problem, and you want to solve the problems. And you might have seen people out there, they have like statements, I will help you, achieve this with this much results, and I will achieve, I will give you um, a guarantee if you didn't achieve this in 1 month, then we will give your money back. And this is something when you see, you realize that this is not going to work. And you have so much experience with this. When you see it, you actually feel that, yeah, it's not going to work, right? Because you have done it yourself. And most of us, they understand what I'm talking about, right? So make it impossible for your prospect not to experience success, and you will be rewarded exponentially by the market. And we have explained it previously, in our day one, where I talked about the value equation and how if you follow the value equation properly, then the market will reward you exponentially, right? And this value equation, which is a more updated form of the normal equation that normally the crowd is using, it's a more comprehensive, right? So you have to take into account all the factors that we're utilizing, and you need to understand each and every effect of each factor within the value equation, so you can actually draw your conclusion based on the data and the predictive analysis that you could do, in all these steps. So you have to build the offer based on the value equation, right? You shouldn't be going anywhere outside. So if your offer is not based on the value equation, then you're missing a lot of things. So at the end of today's session, you will know exactly the whole process of how to achieve 100k a month within 4 to 5 months, right? So let's go. And here comes the important thing which I'm talking about in most of the the challenge, which is leverage, right? I've talked about in the value equation. I've talked about in the whole flywheel, in the upcoming flywheel that we'll be discussing in the offer. And leverage is really the key for you to currently to understand and to scale. Most of us, they're being taught by these people that small is better, right? And why? Because there are some gurus and there are some people who are promoting you need to be small, you have a small team, and they should be expert, and you should provide the services. All right, that's great, but like, how much? Till when? What's the capacity of being small? Like, how much can you scale? Your time is limited. You should have, like, you might have superstars, but you have limitations, right? So why you should be small? If you have a potential, if you understand exactly, you can scale, right? And here's the power of leverage. And so if we understand leverage, you might be thinking and you might understand, well, but in our case, so the word leverage is derived from noun lever, right? So levers have been used for a long time. The term lever in science is used to describe the arrangement where input effort is magnified by a certain time so as to produce higher output force to lift the load, right? So the whole concept is actually, if you can see here in the diagram, you have fulcrum and you have load and you have the effort, right? So for example, on the one side you have a ton weight, and you can't lift it by yourself, right? So what you need is a proper system, and you need this arrangement, which we call leverage, that you can lift any amount of effort, any amount of weight. And so this is really exponential, right? And this arrangement, if you apply it on a business. So the fulcrum in all this arrangement and the business is actually all the tools that we discussed in the value equation, like your tools, your human resources, the effort side of the things, right? How you utilize it and how you leverage it. Also, you leverage time and money, right? So the whole goal is actually the input, which is limited based on time factor, money, and efforts, which is limited. How you magnify it, that's the whole key of understanding and making things leveraged. So this is the whole concept, and I hope you got the whole key. So apply it on each part of your business and watch the magic. Leverage is the backbone of our contrarian offer, and that's what differentiates us from the rest of 99% of the people. Again, they're operating on the crowd thesis, right? So how the average broken agencies consultants operate. So what we call the mercenary flywheel, right? And what happens in the mercenary flywheel where most of the the broke agency owner, the broke founders, they call themselves agency owner. They operate here, right? And what they do is that they don't understand the power of leverage. They don't understand the power of being, you know, someone who actually scale, who makes some money and who enjoy and not being a slave to the business, right? So what happens here, and most of like 90% of the people are in this flywheel effect, right? And we call it the mercenary flywheel. And I will come to it like who are mercenaries. Mercenaries are actually those people who are not driven by any mission, who are driven just by instant gratification, right? So in the upcoming times, what will happen is that there are two types of people. One are called missionaries and one are called mercenaries, right? So mercenaries have no proper mission. They're driven by instant gratification. They want just a quick cash out. Um, they are driven by money, right? And these are the type of people who will be punished by the market in the upcoming times because the market is no more going ahead with with what we say divergence of the value equation. You have to adopt the value, otherwise you will be out of the market. So what happens is that normally people, and most of us when we were starting, or still most of you guys, or what are you doing is that you are providing commoditized services and offer, right? So what you do is that you sell single services like Facebook ads, short form content, cold emails, cold calls. It's such type of single services, right? So what happens is that you have took just a small piece of a big problem, right? And you are not transforming anything. You're just acting, a single part in the whole system. So that is not valuable. You have to, if you want to play the game at higher level, and the way we explained everything in the contrarian approach, you have to solve the whole gap, right? So here, what happens is that when you provide commoditized services and offer, you're actually uh, charging less because you can't charge a 10 grand for just running ads. It's insane. No one in the market will pay you. You are just bringing them customer from ads, running ads, which is a like AI is here, right? And you will see in the next 5 to 6 months. I can guarantee that, right? This AI thing will be introduced into the Facebook, and it can run ads on autopilot, right? So what will happen is that it will ask from business owners, um, what do you want, right? So for example, if in ChatGPT you put in some certain prompts, and it gives you the results. So in the ads, it asks you like, what do you want, right? You want to reach to consultants, right, who are making this much money and who are from this much demographics. These are the things that are really simple and everyone know it, right? If I'm running ads, then I know exactly where who I should reach, right? So you put in those data, and then the Facebook and the AI just handle everything, right? Currently, the Facebook is handling like 80% of the work for you. Normally, like when you're a media buyer, and when you sit with them and you ask them, what happens is that they initially just let the Facebook do the marketing for them, and then based on their data they actually decide. So they have no role right now. But when the AI is coming, then they will decide. AI will decide based on the data, right? So these the ads expert and these services, they're out, right? And again, it's true for appointment setting, right? Everything is being is replacing. So there's no value for a business owner to pay you a 10 grand or a 5 grand as a retainer for running ads, right? So you have to link it to something, and we will discuss it in the missionary flywheel, which is the main model, right? So what happens is that if you provide those commoditized single services, then you get less revenue, right? So low conversion rate because everyone is selling the same stuff. And again, as I told in the beginning, this industry that we are in, like agency owners or consultants and all these people, they are being promoted, and the industry is so much what we say saturated, in a sense that there are people who are who have backed their businesses based on it, right? They are creating thousands and thousands of agencies and consultants each and every year, right? So what happens is that their business is actually growing, but they have destroyed the market. Supply is more and there is no demand. The demand is really less compared to the supply. right? So everyone is starting out agency, and everyone is just because this that they teach the same stuff, right? So everyone that comes, like for example, I'm teaching you to become an ads expert and start an ads agency, and thousands of people watch that. Everyone started with that agency with the same mindset. Then there is competition. No one is getting, like for a single client, there are over 1,000 agencies. So how, like, what the heck would you think that you will get that agency? And you think it's tough? Yes, it's tough. That's why it's tough because there are competition. There are cutthroat competition, and you think that you're being programmed that you have to fight competition and you have to put in a lot of efforts and do more outreach and sit and just destroy your hours. That you're programmed like that, bro. But that's a wrong concept. You don't have to sit for hours and do outreach. That's something that an AI tool can do on autopilot. And there are tools that they're already there. They can send automated outreaches. They can design a message for you. You might be thinking it's not human. Again, it's more human than you, right? So you're not smarter than ChatGPT or coming up with all the tools. It's reality, right? So the whole approach, the whole thing is that what happens is that you charge less, and so your net revenue for your agency is low, right? And when your revenue is low, then you have low retention because of average results. And when you have low revenue, then you can't hire superstar talent, which is the key. Like all the factors that we discussed in the leverage, like your talent, your tools, you can't invest in tools, right? You can't get insights because for getting those insights, we'll do someday we will talk about how to get those insights and how I get these insights uh, from what are my sources, right? So I will expose some sources soon, so you also become at pace with me and you realize exactly what's going on, which will just blow your mind. So what happens is that you can't invest in the insights, right? You can't invest in the tools and the teams because you don't have any margins, and the revenue is not as you think that is required, and it's not sufficient to scale, right? So you can't afford to hire superstar talent because of the lack of funds and hence poor results, and the cycle repeats. I hope you got the concept because it might resonate with you, with most of you, right? You're charging retainer like 2K, 3K retainer, right? And you think you are paying media buyer 500 or 600 USD per month, and you think that you will bring results. You are you're living in dreams, right? Nothing is going to happen for you, and this retainer is just killing the whole business for you. And this is the mercenary flywheel, right? Your main focus is actually focusing on the cash, right? So you get the cash actually here, and then you pay the media buyer, and then you have the margin, and again. But what happens is that, and I really felt that when I was here, I felt that when I realized that I'm in the mercenary flywheel, um, then I realized like I have to change, right? I have to because I wasn't giving proper results for my client, and that was a headache for me. I had no uh, life and work balance, right? And everything was really disturbed. So I realized like something has to be changed, and that's what I realized. That for example, if I have to, the funds that I was getting from like as a retainer from the client, that was low. So the whole agency fund, the whole agency, the funds that were coming to the agency, the margins were really low because I was paying the appointment setters and then the media buyers and all these people. And when I realized that I have to scale, then what happened is that I wanted to invest in tools and superstar people. Then what happened is that when I invested in them, then I was left with 20 to 10% margin, right? And then I said, like, what's happening, right? Will I proceed with just 10% margin? Like I'm doing everything just for this, and then and you will do the same. When you want to scale, you won't have margins, right? And we're here in the agency and in the consultancy because it's popular for having great margins. So what are you doing here at first place, right? So you have to understand that you are here in this mercenary flywheel, and you have to get out of it as soon as possible. Today, this is the end. but you have to promise and you have to do a decision. If you can't decide yourself, then I can't come up. I can't just hate your mind and just decode your mercenary approach and beliefs and the people and the approach that's been installed in your business. I made you contrarian, bro. Like yesterday, we talked a lot about being a contrarian and doing a lot of stuff. There are two terms, right? When I was doing the research, there a term called mavericks, right? And there's another term called contrarian. And mavericks are the people who are against the traditional approach. Like they're absolutely against, but we're not absolutely against. What we do is that we actually the traditional wisdom, right? There might be certain ways that helped us in traditional approaches, because if, for example, there wasn't traditional approach in the business or in anything, we won't have any basis to build upon our models, right? So, in the contrarian approach, what you do is that you look at the traditional and you look at the different models, and then you analyze, and then you oppose based on the counter product that you design, the counter services that you design, right? So this is the slavery. This is actually the slavery, right? So slavery to the business is the traditional model that's being like so well glittered, like everyone is talking that they're running business, but they're in fact slaves, right? So the mercenary flywheel that we talked about, it's the traditional setup, and we have to offer something which can counter that and which is really effective and which can change the game for you, right? So in mercenary flywheel, which is your slavery, when you start, everything seems fine, right? You get the first client somehow and manage to get media buyer and pay him or her at the end of the month, keeping 75% of the retainer charged. So slowly, when you realize that you are stuck and nothing is calling in, most of your time is going to talking to toxic clients and answering questions. And you might have realized, like when you're charging small retainers, the people you are getting, the quality of your prospect and the quality of your clients, they're really like bait, right? You just spend hours talking to these people, explaining them, answering their questions, and everything is really just disturbed. You don't have any life, right? Like you become a patient, bro. Like I've been through this and I understand like the situation at this stage. So you start investing in tools and people, and hence you're left with below 30% margin. Again, that I explained, but still you deliver average results, and clients only stick to you for a month or two, or at max. Yeah. So you constantly work on getting new ones, right? We call it feast or famine zone. So you're not stuck. If you want to invest in teams and tools, you are left with nothing. And if you want to continue this way, your clients are leaving you, and it's constant headache with no work-life balance for a few grants. When you get more and more people on the same offer, people become resistant to it because everyone is providing these commoditized services, and you are forced to either change the niche or change the offer. Right? So this is the whole effect. So for example, if you're not getting any results and your clients are leaving you, then you are actually solving that problem of the revenue by acquiring more clients, which is the costly thing to do, right? You shouldn't be acquiring clients. It's a constant challenge. So you have a feast or famine situation. Either you have clients or you don't have any clients, so you're out of business. Like you don't have any business. You're just in constant flow. That is really the worst model, right? You have to understand. So to be honest, I have personally gone through all this, and if you're going through it, I promise you won't experience this pain ever again. That's my promise to you. And so input is max here, right? But output is zero. So no retention, always running after clients. Why I say output is zero? Because I say output to something when you put in something, right? Like what I'm doing normally when I do something, I think about a long term, a year ahead, right? So for example, if for example I'm recording this session for you, that's an input that I'm giving, right? The things that I wrote, in these files and the research that I did and all the stuff, that's an input, right? But I'm doing it because I know that it will serve me for a lot of time ahead, right? So any input that you do when you think about it, maybe in the agency or in any business, so when you're putting the input, you have to think a year ahead, right? So for example, if your input is not giving you the desired output, then why are you doing it in the first place, right? So the mercenary flywheel is exactly the same thing, right? So everything is being destroyed. So how my contrarian offer make me over 100K a month? So I discovered that if I had to scale and not run after clients each day and every day, I will have to build a system which can be leveraged, that that can run on its own even if I'm not there. Right? So I realized that I don't have to sell my time. Right? I have to build systems and things that actually work, and there should be a way, right? And I found the way, and that's going to be, I have to expose it to you. So I realized that if I had to play it big, then I have to stop selling single services like ads and cold calls and appointment setting. So I double down on building systems and infrastructures that can truly deliver the value for my clients. My goal was to build an offer that can provide true results fast and over a period of time, right? So client want results. It's a reality, and they want it fast. They want two things: results and fast, right? They will prefer fast over free, because speed is everything. When you get a client, you deliver faster results, and you build infrastructures, right? You don't build just provide a single services. So by solving the whole gap means that anything that is stopping them achieving from their desired goal, what are the systems that's required to do that, to make them reach their desired goal? What are the systems, the tools, the humans, all the value you have to, you know by the contrarian offer, I mean, you have just fill in the value cycle, right? So if for example I'm a business, you are someone who for example, you're helping me, reach me to your desired, to my desired situation, right? What you do is that you inspect my business, right? And then you realize, you come up with problem report, and then you sit down and create the contrarian offer. And in the contrarian offer, what you do is that you find out what tools will be using, right? What systems, what will be the platforms for attention generation, and what will be platform for attention owning, what are the payment processes, and what is the whole workflow design, and the whole everything, right? So that's the system building. And it's really essential that if you just you know fish for someone, like in the done for you model, when we were doing it, and most of you guys are doing, you are actually fishing for people, right? So you might fish one day, second day, third day, fourth day, maybe for 3 months or 4 months, but when you leave them, they are at the same situation. They haven't changed. They are negative because a lot of time has also passed. So for example, you scaled someone to 20K or 70K a month, then what happened is that when you leave them, they again come back to zero. So what's the goal of your business? You did nothing. You just made the person felt really bad, because do you understand, like when someone drops from 70K or 50K or 20K to zero? Like, it's really a bad feeling because they don't actually know all the stuff. So what we do is that when we build, we're talking about contrarian offer, then we're building infrastructures and systems, right? So for example, if we build everything, and then after a month we're not working with the person, he's not alone, and he has the systems, he has everything, so he can continue everything by himself, right? So we are teaching them how to fish instead of fishing for them, right? So he then realized everything, and now a whole system is working for him, for her, right? He just have to manage the things. So we place everything in there, right? And we're doing the same for agencies, like our company Client Flow, for agencies and consultants, like who are working with us, who we have scaled, over 50 now. So what we do is that we build those systems, we build those, what we say, tools and resources and everything. Like we are ahead of 1 year ahead of others, right? So we do it the same way. That's why we are getting results. Like that why I'm investing my time into this, right? Into providing the value to you. It's actually um, a magnet, right? I know when I invest my time into you, right, we may become partners, right? And the other example, like for example, why is Alex Harmozy giving you free value in the form of books? His books are free, right? So that's actually his lead magnet. So what he's trying to do is that he's trying to teach you to become, how to become a million a year business. So when you reach that level, he then start to partner up with you because he's actually partnering up with businesses who are making a million in profit. So that's actually his goal. So he's actually creating his own attention, right? And this is the way to create your own attention. And we'll talk, we have talked and we'll talk about it more when we're designing, when we're talking about the workflow. So this is what the bacon science of the contrarian offer is. Like the missionary flywheel effect, you have to understand it's a completely contrary to the mercenary flywheel. And what happens in the missionary, you have to shift, right? With all the saying of here, the things that I realized, you have to understand this model and you have to shift as soon as possible, from today. So what missionaries, I have explained what are missionaries, right? Missionaries are people who are led by mission, a strong mission. They can foresee 4 to 5 years. They are contrarian, so they believe in a strategic pathway, and they have plannings and everything for all this stuff. So they can zoom in and zoom out of their vision, right? So they for example, they want to become a successful agency making a million a year by the end of 2024. That's a big vision that they can zoom in and they can realize what they will do on a monthly basis and on a daily basis and what they can do now to achieve that goal. So that's a missionary-led approach. They're not driven by instant gratification, right? The principles that we talked on the day one, those are the same principles that are applied on missionaries. So they're long term, right? And they believe in the value cycle, right? So they're not diverging, right? So what happened in the missionary flywheel is that you are bridging the whole gap. As I said, you're not providing single commoditized services like aids or all this other type of thing. So what you do is that contrarian offer and service. And contrarian offer, we explained it, you're bridging the whole gap, you're solving everything, you're building systems, you're building tools, resources, teams, and everything required to move your client from the current state to the desired state, right? You might have heard about it, but when we go on and when we actually come to the specific stuff, you will realize more like how is everything going. But the effect here of the contrarian offer is that you have high revenue. Like for example, you're building systems and tools, and you are actually building the whole infrastructure for the person. So if you're not there, he can utilize the same for his business for lifetime, right? So that's the whole thing that you provided to the person. So you can charge high because if I build an infrastructure which is capable of generating 100K a month, then why wouldn't I charge a 15K or 20 grand for this, right? And why wouldn't someone doesn't pay me? That's like the potential. Everything is about the potential, right? So for example, I'm building a system which can generate you, which I can show you, and then I can prove you that this is going to generate 100K a month with this team, with this resources, with this tools, right? Because we have already done it. Then why won't you pay me 15,000 USD if I can make you reach that 100K? And this is what we have done, and we have tested, and the market, the same people I would try to reach out for, closing when I was doing the done for you, it was really difficult to close them on 2.5 or 3K, right? But when I built the contrarian offer, then what happened is that the same people, they were, they when they listened to all the explanation and what we were trying to achieve for them, they agreed to pay 10 grand, 15 grand, right? Why? Because they realize that it's not just a one-time service. It's building things for life, right? So what happened here is that in the contrarian offer, you are paid highly, you charge high, right? And we don't charge low. We are not cheap. You have to realize. So we charge high, and we create our own demand, right? how we create it, we explained it earlier, but we'll explain it also again. So we create our own demand, we create our own audiences, right? We teach them, we let them understand how we operate, right? And it's not so complex. You have to define it in the simplest terms so everyone understands. So high conversion rate because it's bridging the whole gap in a solving 100K problem, right? So in principles, I've talked about solving big problems, right? So we are actually solving a big problem, right? We're not solving just a simple retainer thing. Let me bring you leads. Let me increase your sale by 2%. What the hell, bro? Just forget about those things. You have to change, bro. It's 2024. And you're with me, so you don't have to worry about that. So high revenue, all right? You get high revenue, and what you can do with this, with high revenue, you can hire superstar talent, right? And superstars bring results, and hence the business take off, attracting more clients. So when you have more money, for example, if I give you like a 10K cash, what happens? It has a really exponential effect, a compounding effect, we call it. So what happens is that you have 10 grand, then you can find out the people who are actually the best one, right? And you find them out, you tell them, I can pay you for this client, right? The best that you can be paid. Just go and do this work, right? You can start running ads for the client, and within weeks, you can bring them results, right? So when you start and bringing them 2, 3 clients, you know what happens? The client pays for their own acquisition, right? So the 10K they paid, and you brought the clients, and they see the results, and they're excited. You retain the client for 2, 3 months, and then you provide those tools and all these resources. They're happy, right? And you have the biggest margins, like normally 50 to 60% margin in here in this offer is we are getting, because what we do is that the tools and the systems that we build, it's actually mostly like it's all about the insights and the integration with the tools and all this stuff. Again, we'll talk about it, but this is something that's a higher level. We talk more about it and the growth mobilizer, in our partner program. So you have to be limited up to so far here, because this is actually the backbone model, right? So what happens is that you hire superstar talent, and then you do nothing, right? Just let your team do the stuff. Just let them bring results, because they're the people. And if, for example, someone is bringing you 100K, then why would you pay them the things they deserve, right? The money they deserve. So you hire these people, you invest in tools, you invest in the insights and all this stuff, and it just it drives you crazy, your company crazy, right? So what happens is that, again, your controlling services, you pay high, and it's the higher flywheel effect. So you have no tension of average results, right? You have no worries about client communication, because here the person who's paying you 10K actually shows that he's already running a business which is making him money or money, right? So he's not a toxic client, right? So here things are really like it's a flywheel effect. So things are baking up the other thing, right? So it's a really positive effect. So you have to realize the missionary approach, and it is really like you have to adopt it as soon as possible. And I hope you got the whole concept. So the same people who were complaining about 2 to 3K, as I told, retainer offer, were happily paying me 3x, 4x more than that, because it was based on the biggest problems and was solving the whole gap between their current set and their desired set. So the offer structure in client centric, the offer structure is actually client centric. And client wants fast results, as I told. So the whole the contrarian offer is actually client centric. So we have a client in center, and everything is revolving around him or her, right? So he wants fast results and the minimum time in investment, smooth communication, no management tension, right? So that's what every client desire for, right? So they want the problems to be handed over to you, and they don't want to be involved in the headache stuff, right? So you accept it. You said that, yeah,
but you also don't want to do it yourself. You have to find the right people who will do it for you. Because again, we talked about the leverage and the time and how it's limited and how you want to scale. So you have to utilize those people and let them do the main work. And so, what effective control offer for clients? So when the client pays our invoice, right? What happens in the 2 days we come up with a proven constraint offer, right? So we have a whole inside driven like a research thing. The growth specialist and the coach that we have, like we sit together and diagnose. We're like a whole diagnose stages we'll be talking about. We come up with the offer, right? And what happens is that in 5 to 10 days, a team of already trained sitters are taking care of the lead gen and appointment setting, right? So we have like over 500 appointment sitters, like a whole hub of them that we are placing in different um, businesses, because the right talent is a tool, is a leverage, right? So we have a pool of the talent in this area is going. We are mastering that, and it's like the edge that we're doing. So in 15 to 30 days, close your first line, right? So this, in this time frame, we when we close your client, the rhythm begins, and again, things starts to blow up. So all they have to do is to pay the invoice and let us build a 60K a month or 100K a month infrastructure. Is they just focus on closing deals, right? So although it's a full 4 month process, the infrastructure, the value, and results had to be delivered in the first 3 to 4 weeks. So that's how we operate, right? Because as I told, speed is everything, and client want fast results, right? So that's why you have to be quick and you have to deliver results in weeks, right? So how you actually form your own contrarian offer? That's the actual point, right? So there are 4 stages to building your contrarian offer. The first one is predictive analysis of the segmented market, right? And by predictive analysis, what I mean is that you have a how you do predictive analysis. It's I'm giving you like in the overview of how we do it. It's more complex, right? When you if you had a chance and you really want to scale and you join the growth the contrarian growth mobilizer partner program with us, then what will happen is that we'll go in depth and we'll do the actual thing, but you have to set your base here. So in here, what we do is that we do predictive analysis based on the available data. Right? For example, so what you do is that you find out the data of your segmented market, right? You might take it from your competitor, or you might find out, research on the internet how you do it. There are different approaches, but you find out data, right? And read reports, listen to the people who are influencers in that particular niche that you are. Listen to them, and find out what exactly is happening. What are the data specifics, right? And then when you have the data, then you find out trends. Right? What are the trends for this particular industry in the previous 100 years, right? So how is, for example, in the advertising, how is the advertising evolved through all these times, right? So what exactly worked for some people and what didn't work, and if something didn't work, then why it didn't work, right? So these are all the analysis that you have to find out, in the trends also, right? And then what are the current trends that's going on, and based on the current data and the trends, you predict the future trends, right? And you predict because the data that you have currently, that's that's a linear approach. Just data is nothing. You have to make something out of it, right? What is data? It's a when you can't link it to something, then it's of no use. So how you link it? You actually utilize the data and the trends. You combine both of them, and that is actually the the main drivers of the predictive analysis that we do, right? So when you find the trends and then you spot those trends, how you spot trends, we'll talk about it. Like trend spotting is like the most valuable skill that you can have, right? And big people, for example, I will give you like an example, right? So what happened in an industrial revolution is that people, they would work in industries. Well, like we in human, just give you like a really in-depth overview. What happened when humans started? They were like in jungles, right? And then the agrarian revolution came in. People realized that we have to, do something. And then with the wisdom evolution, the agriculture economy, and then come the industrial revolution, right, where people were doing jobs. And if you realize every revolution, every trend is really fast than the previous one, right? So the agricultural revolution, they were thinking thousands of years, but the industrial took hundreds of years, right? It came, and then in between a lot of other revolutions came in, but these are the major ones. So industrial, and then after that came the in the 70s and the 60s, the whole corporate building, right? So the corporate environment, right? All the big tech companies, right? They just evolved, right? Not the current one, the before them, right? There were some big companies. Obviously, the trend was there, right? So the internet rise was the trend. There was the you know the whole driver of the companies that evolved, right? So when internet evolved, that's the third biggest trend that happened, right? So any business, any corporation that were utilizing it, actually was on the right side, right? And then when the internet and all, when social media trend came, right? So social media, just in 2010 and in all this time, and now in the in the economy, in this new economy, in the attention driven economy, attention is actually the new trend, right? So the more people who own attention, they are the drivers of future economy, right? And that's why the big corporations, they're going to lose, right? And what do you think? Like, look at Elon Musk. Why he bought Twitter? Like, have you thought about it? Why he is he's building? He's good for building cars and building rockets. Why is he buying Twitter? He's a scientist. He think he's smart, and that's why he's on media, and that's why he create controversies and has bought Twitter, because he know that the upcoming economy is attention, and the more people they own attention, and that's the approach that we are utilizing, right? So when you go ahead with this, this is a proven thing, because we have done research and we know exactly where the trends are going, right? So the upcoming billionaires, they are not going to be corporates and these big companies. The upcoming billionaires are going to be personal brands, right? The people who have the attention. So I'm talking about, just look at the Mr. Beast, right? He's a billionaire, and he's not a corporation. He's not a company, right? So a single person, a billionaire, a valuation of $5 billion, just a single person, with what? With just attention. And the same is doing for in our industry. Like, look at the Iman Ghazi or Alex Hormozy and all these people, right? So you have to realize this concept, and that's why I'm talking about like the trends in the data that you have to analyze, and then what is the truth line. This is really important, right? You can have the data, you can predict the trends, but in our agency space, actually, what is happening is that people are believing in really like shit things. Like, they don't have any clue of what they're talking about, right? So some people say you have to do organic outreaches, and some people say that you have to run ads and this and that. The small things, they're just fighting in that small game of the crowd, right? They don't understand the truth line. So for each industry, for each business, there's a truth line, right? And truth line is actually the things that is working, right? So and things that are working means that, for example, there's a fixed thing, right? So if you put in input, it is going to give you output, right? All the other explanation, there are exaggerated explanation of all the truth line, right? So you have to find out the truth line in each industry, right? And the agency will provide you what are the truth lines, right? What is working, what is not. So in the infrastructure building, the model that we're building, it's near to the truth line. right? Why? Because we realize that running ads and building, like appointments, that's just not solving the problem. What is the problem? What are the truths? The truth is actually that I have a business owner in front of me, and he really sad. You know, he's disturbed because his business is not generating revenue, and what he wants to reach a level where he has freedom. That's the truth. So how I solve the problem for them? I don't have to give them more appointments. I'm giving them more problems by providing appointments or more leads. I'm increasing his problem because he has to do the other stuff. Then what I do, I solve his whole problem, right? That's the truth line. And then come the product and service market fit, right? So when you find out the truth line and when you have the trend set, when you have the data, and then you, based on all these factors, you place your product or service that you design based on all the research, you place it where it should be, right? So that placement is really the key, right? So market fit is really essential. You can't be selling newspapers in 2024 when you are seeing is that electronic media is, on the rise or it's already dominated, right? So if you're selling newspaper, you're not following the truth line, right? Because the truth is that 90% of people are using mobile phones, right? Or internet. And the truth is that the trend is against you. The trend is, you know, again, social media and all this stuff. And the data is again saying you that most of the people, 90% of people are watching the news on the phone. So why the hell will you sell newspapers? It's the example, right? So that's the unfit. So you have to find out that market fit, right? And that's where the actual fortunes are being made for people who realize this way, right? So the best way to predict the future is to create it, right? And how you create your future, we talked about it. You have to realize that we can, based on the predictive analysis, the things that we do in the predictive analysis is actually the process, right? It's also the research that is included, but the important thing is the system that we are building based on the data and the trends. We're actually creating things, right? We are creating the demand. We are creating the things, right? We're not creating the desire. You have to remember this here, because desire has to be already in the market. You don't have to create desire, because you will just lose the game. You can spend billions. There are brands in history that has spent billions to create a desire, and they lose, and they lost the game. Why? Because things that are natural, again, I'll come to the nature. Things that are natural, you have to keep it as it is. You have to find solution for those natural problems to natural solutions, right? So that's the whole game. So you have to understand it. And it's really essential that you understand the building of the predictive analysis. So then the second point is actually building the hypothesis table, right? So what is hypothesis table? Is actually identify all the severe problems that's directly interacting and impacting. That's actually directly impacting the revenue, right? So what are the problems that are impacting the revenue of your particular client or your niche? Right? So find out who else have solved the problem and note down their approach, in analysis, right? So what happens is that you do some sort of diagnosis, right? And here in your offer creation journey, and the diagnosis is really interesting, because what you do is that you don't just go ahead and randomly select some, what we say, some problems, and then you just come up with offer that mostly the people are doing, right? So what you do is that you come up with hypothesis table, right? After the predictive analysis, you come, because we are coming from a general to specific approach. So then specifically for your particular client, the niche, sorry, you do this, you create this hypothesis table. So what you do first, identify the severe problems that's directly impacting the revenue, right? So revenue for the business is the primary case here in the research, right? Because when they're operating and optimizing for the revenue, then all the other factors are already like optimized for any business, right? So because we are talking about in client terms, not in our own, you have to remember this. So when you find out the problems, you note it down, and the big problems as we previously talked. So find out, the second step is find out who have solved the problem, right? And note down their approach and analysis. And this step actually gives us the biggest time leverage that we can have, right? Because we look for all the people who have exactly solved the problem, and then what we do is that we also do a reverse engineering approach. Means that we go ahead and book calls with those people who have solved the problem for our niche, right? Who are our possible competitors, and we listen to them, we talk to them, and we see exactly how they solve the problem, right? So we get the strategy from all of them, and then we see exactly which strategy worked, and then we have the data from there, and then we analyze everything and how this failed and how this is not good, and based on the data, what approach should I take, right? So based on all these research, then what happens that then you build an action plan on how you will solve these problems, right? Utilize the other strategies too, come up with the best possible solution that the market isn't aware of, right? So the action plan is really essential. Based on all the data that you did and all the previous questions, what happens is that you build an action plan, and the action plan has to be, a proper time frame driven. It shouldn't be just ordinary general action plan, right? It has to be a time driven, and it has to have each and everything specified, right? So all the problems, you have to write the proper solution for them, right? And which type of model isn't it fitting, right? Which tool is required to solve that problem. You have to understand, like for each problem, you have to apply three things that we explain in the value cycle: the tool, the people, and the insights, right? You have to apply three of them on each particular problem, right, that they have. And any number of problems they have, you have to apply it on all of them, right? And then based on that, you create the action plan, right? And also you have studied the other models. So you listen to the other people and you analyze the competitors' model, and then you see exactly what is in their model that you can utilize for your own. All right. So the fourth one is write your hypothesis statement and get ready to test it at least 1,000 people, then analyze the approach, right? So when you do the research and you find out these problems, and then you come up with your hypothesis statement, right? Hypothesis statement is actually your offer statement, right? It's like what you have to show to the people that what you're trying to do for them, right? So then what happens is that when you come up with a statement, you come with 2-3 variables, right? So for example, you build one based on one factor of the data, and you think that might not be true, so you build 2-3, right? And test each one of it on 100 people. 1,000 people. 1,000 people is the minimum threshold that you have to achieve before hitting and before reaching out to 1,000 people. If you haven't done that, you can use any medium, right, for this, because it's a test, right? So you can let your VAs reach out to 1,000 people, the right people, to test your hypothesis statement, or you can run ads and use this statement, right? And then based on that, you analyze the responses of the people, like what the market is saying about my hypothesis. I have done the research, I have come up with problems with the full action plan, with the resources, and now let the market decide. You don't have to use your head in the process. Remember, you have to listen to the market. Listen to the market and what the market is saying. So after 1,000 outreaches, 1,000 reach outs to people on different mediums, you analyze their feedback, right? And 1,000, it's important that it's not just 1,000 reach outs, it's your responses rate also, right? So for example, in 1,000 reach outs, how many people are responding to you, right? So you have to go ahead with the normal ratio, right? How much? What is the response ratio? That should be like above 20%, right? So if that's the case, then your statement is great. If you close someone in 1,000 outreaches, then I think like it's verified that yeah, the problem in the hypothesis table is good to go, and the problem exists in the market, right? So and obviously your offer is built in, like you're building the whole, bridging the whole gap, so it shouldn't be a problem for you, obviously, because you're solving everything for them. That's a contrarian offer, right? So yeah, we discuss it. Um, this is really important. The hypothesis table is really important in this offer building stage because it's just make everything clear. And then solve your customer problem before it becomes their problem. It's really important, right? So, for example, I'm a customer, right? And you might have experienced when you go to a store sometime, like when you go to a store or you're shopping online, you come up with things that you think that, oh, I needed it. Like I needed it, but I then forgot, and then you just buy it because customers don't know about their problems. Remember, they are controlled by so much issues of their personal, they have their personal problems, and they're just thinking about it, but they don't know the actual things that they need to do, right? So you have to show them the way. You have to tell them that if you do this, then this will happen, and this is going to be the right way for you. So you have to actually identify their problems before they do, and it can only happen with predictive analysis and with the research and the trends identification that we explained, right? So you have to be in that capacity and that approach. And then comes the value-based pricing, right? So create 5 pricing tags and best, and test each on at least 200 prospects. Note that the responses and analyze them. Note the responses and analyze them. Select the winner price and increase it by 10%. Right? It's the normal approach that we're going with the contrarian offer, right? So, for example, any price tag, you selected 5 prices. For example, you created the offer, or the hypothesis table, and then you go ahead with like you price the one offer with like you want to charge 8K, right? For the other one you charge 10K, and for the other one you're charging 12K and 15K respectively. So then you realize, and then you analyze, and reach out to at least 200 prospects, right? And exactly specify the price when they're doing the conversation, and with the value compared to the value and everything that you're providing, and let them be on the call and explain everything to them with properly. Like it's not just going to be just a random thing for a test. It's going to be the actual work, you have to put in all the efforts. Like it's not going to be like a random thing and you think that it's a test. No, you have to give all in, right? And then analyze the approaches. So when you select a price, then increase it by 10%, right? It's what do you think, like why we did it? And it has science behind it. So yeah, and that's your offer price, right? Price of contrarian offer is actually yearly revenue. Like what's the formula? So yearly revenue potential, right? And multiply by probability of outcome, right? Multiply by 10%. So it's all about the potential, as I told. Like how much yearly revenue are you providing to a particular business, right? And what's the probability of outcome? Maybe like you're promising to them 300 grains, right? But you might be right or you might be wrong. That's a 50-50 chance, right? So you take the probability by 50%, right, which is 0.5, and then you multiply it. That's the upfront cash that you can collect, which is 15K, right? So that's the formula of the pricing that we're using, and it's the most effective formula for exactly the contrarian pricing, right? Because we are driven by potential, and we deliver that based on that potential because we are playing it at higher level, right? It's not just a retainer service that you can do nothing and you don't have any margin. So when you get the cash, again, you hire the great people and the team, and you do everything. So yeah, plus the performance fee, which obviously with the cash upfront, you can charge 10 to 15% of your performance fee based on the any profit that you generate, right? So pricing is directly proportional to the depth of your offer and a number of positive feedback from the market. You have to analyze it. So the best marketing strategy ever is care. You have to care again. So the fourth one is actually apply progress algorithm continuously. So what is the progress algorithm? And you have to apply it on the offer continuously. Like for example, you created an offer, it worked for some time, and then a time comes that your offer is getting resistance. Right? If there's so much good offer, we have experienced it. You have to readjust the approach. You have to readjust the offer. Right? So what happens is that you apply the progress algorithm, and no one is doing it. Right? And when you do it, you are like you're acting as a algorithm, as a program, and then you improve yourself. And this is the core of scalability, right? So the first thing is start. Like you start based on the outreach. Like you do outreach and let the people in the market know about your offer, and then you analyze the feedback, right? So when the people are giving you feedback, how is the positive, negative, why, right? Analyze it based on the data that you get, and then readjust your offer, right? So based on the data, you readjust. For example, you reach out to someone, they don't like it. Why they don't like it? Because maybe the pricing is high. Then you look at the pricing, right? Then you adjust the pricing, and then you reach out to someone else, right? And then they agree. Why they agree, right? Because they afford it or something. Analyze all the responses, right? And then when you readjust the approach, analyze it, then you restart and again reach out to different people, right? And see the response, and again proceed. It's the whole game of this cycling, right? So for feedback analysis, you should need at least 30 sales calls before you change any content offer, right? This is really essential because most of the people have the habit of changing things. Like most of agencies and out there, they're just changing niches, right? They think that this particular niche is not working for us. It's not the problem with the niche. It's you. You're the problem. So you have to realize is that after if you're here in the country and you have to build things, and in the building you have to take a lot of time. It's not just coming up with a problem. You have to do all this research, right? When you do the research and you start based on the data, then you don't have to change things up because you've wasted a lot of time, and time is our currency. So what you need is that you need at least 30 sales calls, so you have enough data to actually predict that this is not going to work for me. This offer is not going to work. So 30 sales calls, we realized on the data is that this is enough for you to decide whether you should go with offer or not, right? So if you didn't close any call in 30 sales calls, then you can change the concurrent offer. And how you change it, we have a different formula for that. And again, it's a value of the Hormozy approach, which is like the dream outcome that you desire and the pursuit like level of achievement, time delay, effort and time sacrifice. You understand well? Maybe we talk about it later. But the whole SOP of the concurrent offer is actually clarity that you're not like others selling the same commoditized services. You have to give this clarity, right? And in data, data-driven services. So when you provide it in date, it's really effective. It's really powerful, right? You're not just providing some random, claims. You're providing an in date that you'll provide the service by this much, by this time, right? So it shouldn't be exactly at that time. You have to deliver results fast, but if you provide in date, the client feel safe, right? They feel really good. And then price anchor, like individual things in your delivery infrastructure, if you have to do it alone. For example, when it comes to pricing and you price your container offer like 10K or 15K, then how you justify it based on the formula that I gave you. But you also do price increment. For example, if you're providing different, like you're building the whole infrastructure, so you're using different tools and systems and people, and then you tell them, if you go out, to the client, that if you go out, if your client go out in the market and they look for individual things like the teams that we are providing or the infrastructure that we are providing, then they will cost you this much individually, right? So you provide the individual pricing and then you sum up, and that is going to be like a larger price, but we are offering it in just half of that, right? So you have to give these type of approaches and make up the mind of your prospect. And then comes the scarcity. Again, you have to speed things up, that limited offer and all that stuff. Urgency, also guarantee. And by guarantee, we mean that you don't have to provide money back guarantee, or with really currently the way the market is operating, guarantee is important, right? And you can also provide the money back guarantee, but in certain conditions. So there are two types of guarantee. One is conditional and one is unconditional. And the people are providing unconditional guarantee like that. They're saying that we will deliver you this much results in 1 month, or we give you your money back. This is unconditional guarantee. Like, do you think that you will actually provide results? You might not provide that. You might provide less than that, right? So that's a conditional guarantee. So you have to be like the unconditional. You have to be conditional guarantee. For example, you are providing certain results, but the client has also some responsibilities. You have to complete that, right? And then you have your whole balance of things going forward, right? So, and the guarantee shouldn't be so severe, right? So you should have to take the probability of time. If, for example, you can deliver service in 2 months, then you have to take the time to 3 months. So you have that plus minus in time, so you have time to actually deliver and not just give the money back, which is like a complete losing game, right? So that was all for the contrarian offer creation. And I hope that you got the value and you got the things that were required for you to build the offer for yourself. And I'm really excited for you to just create your offers and send it in the community and let me check your offers, right? Just ask me any questions about your offer and what do you think. Like, just I will rate your offer maybe, and or what I will do is that for first 10 to 15 people, what we're going to do in the content creators is that we have built this new community where we have like a different one for Mobilizer, which is like for a long time, but for content we're going to the creators is that we are, for the first 15 people, we will be building the offer. By our team will build the offer for you. That's a really amazing news. If you really realize it, offer building is really like the toughest thing, because it's not just a joke, right? If you really want to scale, it's like the best, uh, the foundation of it, and you have to leverage it also, right? So yeah, we are doing that in the community. You can reach out to me also, and then yeah, just take me in your offer, and then we will discuss about it, whether you should go ahead with it or not, and what you should change. So yeah, I think that's it for today, and then I will meet you in the next session. And good to go. Thank you so much.